What is up, everybody? It's Commander Tofu back with another episode of Hidden Rocks, the series where we talk about cards that aren't quite good enough to be called hidden gems, but they may still deserve a place in one or two decks out there. I'm pretty excited for this episode because we'll be talking about two cards I actually play in my own Commander decks, and our last card is one that's so old and obscure that it literally hasn't been printed in my lifetime. And it has a card mechanic so janky that most players don't even know what it does. And no, I'm not talking about banding. Our first card today is Archery Training, and wouldn't you know it, it's an old, white enchantment. I'm starting to get a feeling that we're going to be seeing a lot of those in this series. So Archery Training is a 1-mana aura that you play on a creature. It says at the beginning of your upkeep, you may put an arrow counter on Archery Training. Enchanted creature gains tap. This creature deals X damage to target attacking or blocking creature, where X is the number of arrow counters on Archery Training. Now this card might seem like kind of a dud. It's a creature aura, which is kind of bad to begin with, and it'll only start dealing damage the turn after you play it. Even then, you only get to deal 1 damage to a creature at first, and the creature has to be attacking or blocking. Yeah, this card doesn't exactly inspire confidence at first glance. But I did find one commander that synergized so well with this card that I think it might deserve a spot in that deck. And that commander is everybody's favorite angel horror, Atraxa. Atraxa has 5 different abilities, and every single one of them synergizes with Archery Training, at least indirectly. She has Death Touch and Lifelink, so every time she deals damage to a creature, it'll die and you'll gain a bit of life. She also has Flying and Vigilance, so you can freely swing her at opponents and still hold up your Archery Training activation. And lastly, her Proliferate lets you stack up archery counters faster to deal more damage. Now this won't matter too much because she already has Death Touch, but you will gain more life the more damage you do, so it does still help. The only downside here is that you can still only target creatures that are attacking or blocking, but at the very least, Archery Training makes Atraxa much harder to block because you can shoot down any creature that tries to block you. Also, Atraxa decks tend to be Super Friends themed, so you'll most likely just want to target a creature that's attacking your Planeswalkers anyway. Our next hidden rock is an extremely powerful card and hardly anybody knows about it. So we all know the card Time Walk, 2 mana for a blue sorcery that takes an extra turn. This is undoubtedly one of the most powerful cards in Magic's history, and it definitely deserves its spot in the infamous Power 9. But what if I told you that there is a Commander legal Time Walk? And no, I'm not talking about the red ones that make you lose the game. I'm talking about a 2-mana green instant speed extra turn spell. You probably wouldn't believe me, but this is a real card, and its name is Seed Time. It just has 2 minor drawbacks. First, you can only play it during your turn. That's not too bad because a 2-mana sorcery that takes an extra turn is still pretty great, especially in green. Secondly, you can only cast Seed Time if an opponent played a blue spell that turn. Yeah, okay, this card's pretty bad. When it works, it's incredible. 2 mana for an extra turn is nuts, but most of the time this card is just going to rot in your hand because you have to wait for a blue player to play a spell on your turn for some reason. Like I said, you can get lucky, but it's kinda hard to recommend a card that won't do anything a lot of the time. But there is a commander that was printed pretty recently that this card synergizes with perfectly. A commander that encourages your opponents to play spells on your turn. I'm talking about Yurlok of Scorched Thrash. Aside from being the most difficult commander recently to pronounce, this guy gives your opponents 3 mana each and then makes them take damage whenever they don't spend mana. If you're playing against a blue player, then they'll probably keep some blue mana up to play a spell on your turn so that they won't take damage, and when they do, you'll be ready with your green Time Walk ready to go. I was honestly really surprised that Seed Time didn't show up on Yurlok's EDH rec page, because this legitimately seems really good. Like, we're getting dangerously close to hidden gem territory here. Maybe like a hidden geode. Alrighty, now for our final card. A card so obscure and janky that I'm honestly willing to bet that none of you watching this have ever seen it in real life before. A card that was first printed in Legends back in 1994 and has never been reprinted since. I am of course talking about the best 4 mana white instant featuring an obsolete keyword, the one and only Rapid Fire. Now this card is a little confusing, so let me run you through how it works. For the low price of just 4 mana, you get an instant speed combat trick, but it's not really instant speed because you do have to play it before your opponent declares blockers. The creature you play it on gets First Strike and Rampage 2. Now for those of you who don't know what Rampage does, you are not alone. Rampage buffs your creatures until the end of turn for each creature that blocked it after the first one. So if your creature has Rampage 2 and gets blocked by 1 creature, nothing happens. If you get blocked by 2 creatures, then that is 1 extra creature, so you get +2/+2 until end of turn. If you get blocked by 3 creatures, then you get +4/+4 until end of turn, and so on. Alright, so let's break this card down. First of all, it's a 4 mana combat trick. Not great. Second, if your opponent doesn't block or just blocks with 1 creature, then all you did for 4 mana was give a creature First Strike, which is also pretty bad. Thirdly, creatures almost never get blocked by more than 1 creature, and since you have to play the spell before blockers are declared, you don't even have the possibility of surprising your opponent with it. So actually getting the Rampage to trigger seems super unlikely. Fourth, the art is very dumb. And worst of all, and I almost hate to mention it, it is a white card, so you have to have a deck with other white cards in it. I know, this card is pretty bad. So bad that I checked on EDH Rec, and apparently this card has only shown up in deck lists 7 times. 7. To put that in perspective, One With Nothing has showed up in decks 173 times, and that card literally just makes you discard your own hand. Also, I'm pretty sure that most of those 7 decks were just Rampage-themed meme decks, so it's pretty safe to say that nobody has ever seriously played this card before. But there is one, I repeat, one singular commander deck out there that actually manages to make this garbage fire piece of rectangular disappointment truly shine. And that commander is Audric, Master Tactician. Audric lets you decide how your opponents block if you attack with him and 3 other creatures, so you can give one of your creatures Rampage, and then force all of your opponent's creatures to block it. The First Strike actually makes this work out even better. Imagine you attack with Audric and some 3/3 creatures, against an opponent with 100 untapped 4/4s. I know this is a little magical Christmas landy, but work with me here. You play Rapid Fire on your 3/3, and then you force all 100 of your opponent's 4/4s to block it. The Rampage effect will trigger, and your 3/3 will get plus 198 until end of turn, so it'll be a 201, 201. Your creature can then deal 201 First Strike damage, killing 50 of the 4/4s. And your creature won't even die because it'll survive the 200 damage from the 50 leftover 4/4s. So you got to kill 50 4/4s for just 4 mana. And then you die on their turn because they still have 50 4/4s left, but that's beside the point. All memes aside, Rapid Fire is actually a somewhat decent card in an Audric deck, and it definitely deserves to see a little bit of play there. It gives you a way to kind of wrath your opponent's huge boards while keeping yours intact. It's still not amazing, but it is playable, and this is definitely one of the only decks that this card will ever be remotely close to playable in, so I think it definitely deserved the last spot on this episode. Now, as of recording, this card is sitting at a little bit over $16 on TCG Player just because it was only printed in Legends. But I think that's actually a good deal if you think about it, because most cards in Legends are like $500, so I would say it's a pretty good price. So definitely get this for your Audric decks. That's it for episode 2. I hope you guys liked these 3 hidden rocks. If you have any suggestions for cards to put in future videos, then tell me in the comments below and I might put them in. Thanks for watching. Subscribe if you don't want to miss the next one.